In an ancient Buddhist village, there was a grand hermitage dedicated to Buddha, where a renowned Buddhist monk resided. Among his disciples, there was one who simply couldn't stop talking. He would endlessly chatter about anything that crossed his mind. When he went out to collect donations, he would return with a new story from each house and share it with the other disciples. He often spoke poorly of his companions, gossiping and trying to appear virtuous in front of others. He boasted about himself, always attempting to demonstrate that he was the smartest and best disciple before the monk. He believed himself to be different and superior to all the other disciples. He would often say, "My parents are wealthy. If I wanted, I could live a comfortable, luxurious life. But I chose to give it all up in the name of Buddhism. That's why my sacrifice is greater than all of yours." One day, the Buddhist monk called all the disciples to the hermitage and said, "Each of you must set a goal for the next month. This will strengthen your determination and instill confidence. You can set any goal according to your capacity, and if anyone fails to meet their goal within a month, they will return to their previous routine." All the disciples set goals, big or small, according to their abilities, and after sharing them with the monk, they went on their way. However, the disciple who always sought to outshine the others went straight to the monk's hut and said, "I don't want to set a small goal that I can achieve in a month. I want an ambitious and grand goal worthy of my capabilities. Please, give me such a goal." The monk smiled and said, "Will you be able to fulfill the goal I give you? Will it be possible for you to complete it? Probably not. You should set your own goal." But the disciple insisted, "No, Master, I beg you to give me a goal. Any goal you set, I will achieve." The monk then said, "Very well, then you will remain silent for the next month. Not a single word shall come out of your mouth. That is your goal." The disciple replied, "Master, is this my goal? It's too easy to remain silent for a month. Give me a more challenging goal, one that matches my capacity and is difficult to achieve." The monk responded, "First, complete the goal I've given you." The disciple, eager to prove himself, agreed to the monk's challenge and remained silent. At first, it was easy for him to stay quiet. He passed a day in silence. But by the second day, the burden of not speaking began to weigh on his mind. On the third day, he felt even more discomfort, and by the fourth day, he experienced an unusual anxiety. All the other disciples were conversing with one another, and he yearned to join in. He wanted to speak, but his determination held him back. Days passed, and the disciple fell ill. He had a severe headache, lost his appetite, and felt suffocated by the need to speak. He went to the monk, sat before him and wrote, "Master, I want to speak. I can't breathe without talking. I feel like I'm losing my mind. What should I do? I must break my goal." The monk smiled after reading this and said, "Goals are made to be broken, but those who fulfill their goals strengthen their inner power, and those who strengthen their inner power are on the path to mastery and enlightenment. Setting the goal was in your hands, and breaking it is also in your hands." Many of the disciples have broken their goals and returned to their previous routines. If you cannot manage this, you too can break your goal and return. But remember, if you cannot handle this small goal today, how will you manage the rest of your life? The decision is entirely yours. These words wounded the disciple's pride. He left without saying a word and isolated himself in his hut. He emerged only for essential needs and spent the rest of his time in silence. 15 days passed, and while most of the disciples had already failed to meet their goals, his silence remained unbroken. Not a single word had passed his lips since taking on the goal. The other disciples were astonished by the silence of the one who used to talk incessantly. After 15 days, he returned to the Buddhist monk and wrote, "Master, I am silent on the outside, but inside there are countless voices, complaints, questions and doubts. The more I remain silent on the outside, the louder it becomes inside. My goal remains unbroken. The Buddhist monk replied, "Yes, your goal is still in progress, but as long as you hear these voices within, your mind continues to chatter, for you are accustomed to speaking. You may be silent on the outside, but your mind is still engaged in constant dialogue. You must distance yourself from these thoughts and voices." The disciple left, thanking the monk. He then ventured out into the forest. Days went by, and though his goal was completed, the disciple did not return. The other disciples feared that a wild animal might have devoured him. Despite many efforts to find him, there was no trace. Most disciples assumed he had been lost to the wilderness, but the Buddhist monk did not share their thoughts. One day, another disciple approached the monk and asked, "Master, what do you think happened to our companion? Do you think he was killed by wild animals?" The monk replied, "Wild animals might have claimed him, but there could be another reason why he hasn't returned. Perhaps he has found what he was searching for." The disciple asked, "Master, is it truly so harmful to talk too much?" The monk responded, "It is often said that one of the greatest challenges of being human is the inability to remain silent. We constantly feel the need to speak, even when it's unnecessary or when it might lead to negative outcomes. A significant portion of our problems arises from our tendency to talk excessively. Many arguments and conflicts stem from talking too much. We all want to be heard, but often we don't listen to others. Instead, we focus on expressing our opinions and convincing others that we are right. This only leads to more confrontation and resentment. This pattern of talking without listening continues throughout our lives, causing unnecessary stress and problems. In this ignorance of talking without purpose, we waste our time, our lives, our understanding, and most importantly, the precious moments we could have lived, experienced, and enjoyed. And what do we gain in return? Nothing. We learn nothing when we are constantly talking. We don't build genuine relationships, nor do we truly hear others. Only a few realize the loss we suffer by not closing our mouths when there is nothing necessary to say. The disciple asked, "So, what is the solution?" The monk replied, "The solution is to remain silent when there is no need to speak. We must observe our thoughts, become aware of them, and take control of our minds. This brings miraculous changes in life." After this response, the disciple's questions were answered and he left. 3 months had passed since the disciple had left the hermitage, and there was still no news of him. The monks had lost hope of his return. But one day, to everyone's surprise and delight, the disciple returned. He was not the same person who had left. He had undergone an incredible transformation and exuded a sense of calm and peace. His face radiated tranquility. As soon as he arrived, the other disciples gathered around him, asking where he had been and what he had done. He began to speak with them, and they noticed that he was no longer as impatient or talkative as before. Each word that came out of his mouth was smooth and gentle, saying just enough to convey his thoughts. After speaking with the disciples for a while, he went directly to the Buddhist monk and said, "Am I still in silence? My goal has been fulfilled." The monk looked deeply into the disciple's eyes for a moment and said, "Yes, you are still in silence. Not a single word has escaped your lips, and your goal remains unbroken." The disciple replied, "When I left the hermitage, I was silent on the outside, but inside there were many voices, many questions in my mind that wouldn't stop. So I went to the forest, hoping to find peace. But the deeper I went into solitude, the louder the voice inside me became. I began to listen to that voice within. That's when I realized how wrong I had been to speak poorly of my family, friends, and fellow monks. At the time, I felt justified, even when gossiping and mocking the monks. I believed I was better than them. But that day, I realized for the first time how mistaken I was. For a long time, those voices and complaints continued inside me, but gradually they all disappeared. Now I am at peace within. In that dense forest, there was no one to talk to, and eventually there were no more voices inside me. I understood the true meaning of silence for the first time. That day, there was peace all around me. I could finally appreciate the beauty that had always surrounded me in the forest. The sound of the wind, the singing of the birds, the flow of the water. For the first time, I heard all these sounds with full awareness. I had never felt such peace before. The monk said, "The restlessness within us is often caused by our excessive external talk. However, when we turn inward, we find calm, no matter what we say. It is often said that much of the evil in the world originates from our speech, as we fear silence. We talk more than necessary and fail to listen to others. Instead, we interrupt to try and assert our importance. This becomes the focus of our lives, and all our energy is wasted in meaningless conversations. Such a society is full of sadness because people don't listen to each other or try to understand one another. They don't know the value of silence because it makes them feel small." The reason behind most of the world's battles is our meaningless chatter. Therefore, we must speak only as much as is necessary to understand one another. Unnecessary talk never allows us to go within. It always pulls us outward. If we wish to turn inward, we must keep our mouths shut. That is why all the enlightened Buddhas sought solitude, to avoid speaking too much and to listen too much. They remained calm in solitude, which allowed them to travel within with ease, even while living in this world. We can live in solitude and remain calm, but for this, we must conserve our energy, which we often waste on idle chatter. The lesson of this story is that talking in vain is a waste of energy. Those who wish to journey inward must keep their mouths closed. In this way, they will find the space and energy to discover all the inner riches that await them. I hope this video has been helpful to you and that you can apply its teachings to live a richer and more meaningful life. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe so you don't miss more content like this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. And before you go, here's something extraordinary I want to share with you. NASA scientists have developed a revolutionary 7-minute audio called GeniusWave that helps unlock your brain's full potential. Imagine attracting success and happiness effortlessly. To discover how you can transform your life too, click the link in the description below. Don't miss out on this opportunity. Until next time.